Joining us now, MSNBC White House reporter Laura Barone-Lopez, staff writer at The New Yorker Susan Glasser, and chief Washington correspondent for Puck, Leanne Caldwell. I mean, Laura, I asked you this yesterday. I'm going to ask you it again today. Why is he so nervous about these emails, about this information? If he says there is no there and that he thinks Jeffrey Epstein is a creep, why not just say, yeah, take it all. Take it all. I'm fine. Take it all.
Look, Katie, I don't know if I'm going to have a more satisfying answer today than I did yesterday. What I will say is that obviously we want to ask the president those questions. I'd like to ask him that question. I think other reporters in the White House press corps would love to ask him that question, which is why does he appear to be whipping against the vote next week, tried to get names taken off the discharge petition, tried to get House Republicans to take their name off of it? Why not be willing to release it? And no one has been able to ask him that directly, especially with cameras on in the public view. And when White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt was asked very directly about some of the substance of these emails the other day, she was asked by CBS reporter Wei Zhizheng, did the president ever spend hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a victim? And she didn't answer it. So they're not necessarily engaging on the substance of the emails. They're not engaging on why the president is trying to divert and distract by saying he's going to now direct the Justice Department, ask the Justice Department, the Attorney General, to investigate others who he knows may have had some relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. But obviously the president had a long relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. That's well documented. So despite eventually saying that he kicked him out of his club years later, he had a relationship with him, as all those videos and those emails show, and apparently does not want these to be released.
There's a new survivor's letter out to members of Congress, Leanne, and here's what it says. You have the ability to vote to release the Epstein files and with it deliver a promise the American people have awaited for far too long. We implore you to do so. Several weeks ago, when a few brave survivors stood before you and recounted their harrowing stories, many of you were shaken to your core. We urge you, when you cast your vote, please do not forget the horror you felt that day. There is no middle ground here. There is no hiding behind party affiliation. The testimonies you heard are just a fraction of the unimaginable suffering endured by more than 1,000 victims alike. How much influence does a letter like this have? What do you expect to happen in Congress, Leanne?
So Speaker Mike Johnson said that the vote he would bring it up this coming week. So we do expect that to happen unless he changes his mind, which of course he could. But it will have to come up soon, regardless. And from what I'm hearing from my Republican sources is that there are going to be a lot of Republicans, perhaps dozens, who in fact vote for the release of these files. For many, it is politically untenable. For others, they think that it's just the right thing to do. And the pressure is too great for them to ignore it when they have the choice in front of them. And so I do expect, based on what Republicans are telling me, that this vote will pass overwhelmingly. That doesn't mean that these files are going to be released imminently. It, of course, has to go to the Senate next. And then if it passes the Senate, then it's up to the president. Does he veto it or does he sign it? And that could be a very interesting decision, Katie.
Yeah, I mean, it could definitely be interesting and potentially damaging. I mean, Susan, I'm so happy you brought up what happened in the 90s with the Ken Starr investigation and where it started and where it led, because I think we do forget that once it's like a snowball rolling down a hill. You know, it really starts to gather steam. It gets bigger and it becomes uncontrollable. Do you foresee this potentially happening here?
Well, look, I think, frankly, it's already happened, arguably. Remember that this has been a scandal that has it crept up in different incarnations from the beginning of Trump's time in public life. It actually claimed one of his first-term cabinet secretaries was forced to resign, Alex Acosta, because he had signed off on what later, people came to view as a sweetheart plea deal for Jeffrey Epstein when Acosta had been a prosecutor in Florida. Donald Trump was very defensive, asked repeatedly about Epstein in 2019 after he died. In fact, interestingly, in terms of how the White House is handling this now, right? It's often there's underlying conduct in a scandal, and then there's the question of the handling it or the cover up or the associated spin-off investigations. Well, in this case, the White House this week, Caroline Leavitt, claimed that Donald Trump fell out with Jeffrey Epstein and that he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago because he was, quote unquote, a pedophile. Well, in 2019, Donald Trump was asked very directly by reporters, did you have any suspicions at all about Jeffrey Epstein? Did you know about him? And Donald Trump looked in their face and said, absolutely no. No, I had no suspicions at all. So explain to me, and I wish someone would ask Caroline Leavitt, how is it possible that Donald Trump kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago for being a pedophile if he had no suspicions at all about him being a pedophile? So this is the kind of example where White Houses dig in to trouble. And there's an abuse of power that's already occurring. Trump today is demanding an investigation by his Justice Department of Democrats on the basis of, no specific allegation of illegal activity, simply to take attention.
Well, it's interesting because what you're seeing are a bunch of people who have email exchanges or relationships with Jeffrey Epstein. And I guess the logic here is that everybody who's been talking to him, if they have a D in front of their name, must be implicated in some way, must have done something wrong. But I, who also had a relationship with him, I am completely clean. That's a hard pill to swallow. I know there are a lot of Trump allies out there who are trying to do that and trying to make this look like Donald Trump is a savior here, or this exonerates him in some way. But it's difficult logic is how I'll put it, Susan.
Yeah, it's not a circle that you can square right away. I think it's really important, again, that it's MAGA itself that is fueling this political dilemma for the president, by the way, because they've been obsessed with proving the idea that there was a secret cabal of Democrats and celebrities surrounding Epstein who were all implicated in it. And it's very politically inconvenient, at a minimum, that one of the people who was in Jeffrey Epstein's circle happens to be the leader of their MAGA movement. And so, that's what's happening here right now. Is it's a political story for Donald Trump, not because we're talking about it. Frankly, he doesn't care if we talk about it, but because his own base has been the ones that have fueled the idea that there's something terrible hiding in these files all along. So they're outraged when Donald Trump is the one who tells them they can't have the files.
So part of what the House has done here, and what Republicans will point to, is that they don't really need to get on this discharge petition, even though it's got enough votes to pass if it is brought to the floor. Part of the reason they don't need to be a part of that is because the House Oversight Committee has been getting information from DOJ and from the estate. So far, they've gotten a lot more from the estate that has been revelatory than they've gotten from DOJ. I wonder, Leanne, anything else coming soon? What should we expect next?
I actually just asked the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, Congressman Garcia, about this the other day, 2 days ago. I said, what should we expect? What else is there? And he made the point that he's not sure. He also said that, as you said, Katie, that the Epstein estate has been a lot more cooperative responding to these subpoenas, and that is where these 20,000 emails have come from. But he also noted that all of the information is with the Justice Department, and that is the information that is absolutely critical to have. He reminded reporters that when the Justice Department released information earlier this year in response to the House Oversight Committee, that most of it, he quoted 97% of it, had been released before. So there seems to be more out there that we haven't seen. Katie.
Yeah, it is interesting. I'm also just very struck by, and this is for a longer conversation, the way in which it seems Jeffrey Epstein is searching for some sort of leverage over Donald Trump. He's trying, he says over and over again to multiple different people in emails to, a woman named Kathy Rumler, I know how dirty Donald Trump is. My guess is that non-lawyers, New York business people have no idea what it means to have your fixer flip. Also, the grammar and the punctuation on these emails are so strange. It's really hard to follow. I don't understand what was going on in his head. But he keeps talking over and over again. I can talk to the Russians. I've got stuff on Donald Trump. I can explain Donald Trump to them. He seems like somebody who at the very least knows the walls are closing in. He's looking for a way out. All right, Leanne Caldwell, Susan Glasser, LBL. Thank you, ladies, very much.